What up, though, y'all? How y'all living? Welcome to Juan-o's world. Now, the whole Death Row thing comes up a lot. Death Row Records. It's pretty interesting story. Kind of an entertaining story. Something that we all would like to know more about. But this kind of really, this one really stood out to me. Now, some of y'all know Mob James. Some of y'all don't know Mob James. But I finally figured out what he was mad about. Check this story out right here, man. You ain't, well, you might believe it.
George, also known as G or Ponytail, was born in the year 1965 and is a member of the Ludus Park Piru Gang, which is considered the mother gang of Piru gangs on the east side of Compton. In the early 70s, when George was 7, several sets of Crips began to claim neighborhoods in Compton. In 1972, a few teenagers formed their own gang as protection against the Crips. Originally called the Piru Street Gang Boys, they were created to directly combat the Crips. At the end of the 70s, the violent crime rate in Compton had skyrocketed. George was in his mid-teenage years. He was
Okay. So they taking it back to the start of the game. So it's Ludus Park Pyrus and then this Mob Pyru. Now Mob Pyru, that's Mob James, Suge, Buntry, Heron. Most of the Death Row cats they're Mob Pyru. And this is Ludus Park Pyru. And I think they're not the same gang. I'm assuming they had some type of a truce maybe at this time that they was at Death Row.
smart student, but at this point he became engulfed in his surroundings. His environment and the people he was raised with molded him to become progressively more ruthless as the years went on. By the late 80s, George had developed into a hardcore gang member, and his name rang bells of fear through Compton. Suge Knight had grown up north of Alondra Boulevard and west of Wilmington. This is a patch claimed by Ludus Park Pyru, although he never joined as a teenager.
Look at the hair on Suge.
Suge had deep connections with this gang. As Death Row's fortune proceeded to skyrocket, Suge's label had no problem finding talent. Every hip-hop artist on the West Coast wanted in. Suge created a family environment underlined by a constant threat of violence. And that violence was enforced by the killers Suge surrounded himself with. Around 1993, Suge began assembling a hit squad, which was mainly composed of heavy hitters from the Ludus and Mob Pyru gang. He personally selected George Williams, and through George, he met Poochie and added them on.
Now, if you don't know, Poochie is the dude that killed Biggie. It's suspected, it's alleged, but it's like damn near a guaranteed fact. Now, the reason nobody's charged for Biggie death is because this is normal gang activity, and you can't say somebody necessarily paid for this hit, even though somebody may have benefited from the hit.
To his roster. In the meanwhile, Suge used about $200,000 in cash to buy drugs and guns for Ludus and Mob Pyru. This is what got Mob Pyru started in drug dealing and gun running. Suge surrounded himself with his goon squad at almost every social occasion, as well as being almost residents at his Cam-Am Studios. The Cam-Am Studios, situated on Oxnard Avenue in Tarzana, became Death Row's main place of business. It's situated in the mainly Mexican and middle-class white inhabited area in the San Fernando Valley. Suge liked the anonymity the location provided. The building of the Cam-Am Studios was greeted by a lobby with metal detectors and guards. Security personnel list consisted of hardcore blood gang members who were allowed guns and drugs inside the studio.
But see, that's a problem. Because when you surround yourself with killers, you're really designing your own jail. When you surround yourself with anything, you're really designing your own prison. So you have to be careful what you surround yourself with, and necessarily surrounding yourself with dangerous people don't necessarily make you as dangerous as you think. It may make your situation dangerous for you. You got to really pick and choose these type of things, especially when people not respecting or fearing you be past the money.
Location will be the scene of many shakedowns, beatdowns, and other acts of violence. George was always present at the studio to be the main one applying the reinforcement. He was the most feared, and at the top of the list when it came to danger. Suge would pay George to carry out hits. Over the years, George noticed clear favoritism towards Poochie, as Poochie received houses and more expensive gifts for the murders he committed, while George felt he was getting crumbs in the short end of the stick. This led to built-up animosity.
And this what Mob James was talking about in this Vlad interview that made him get to crying. Some of us didn't understand. I didn't personally understand when he was talking about fighting amongst the homies. But what Mob James obviously was leaving out is the homies was putting in all type of work. And when you surrounded by killers that you got out here killing, I guess one would look at how much the other one is being taken care of. I mean, after all, no honor amongst thieves, and we specialize in killing over here.
Which boiled over into an argument between Suge and George. Some say George was stealing money from Suge, and when Suge found out, he fired him and demanded that George return the gifts and cars he had given him over the years. Other people close to George say he was set up and made to be the fall guy. Whichever theory is true, George.
Now, what the hell was Suge Knight thinking that some killers was about to return some cars to you? Gifts at that. You crazy, Suge.
Refused to return any of the gifts. He felt he had earned them for all the dirt he had done for Suge throughout the years. Suge was heated when he found out George wasn't going to give back the car. Some say Suge had a fear of George, so he felt it was best to get George out of the way, but it would end up backfiring in the worst way. Suge then allegedly put a hit out on George. Then one day, Suge had his goons lure George to a secret location, where they gave him a severe beatdown. They tortured him, and Heron wound up shooting George in the ass. They were about to kill him, but somehow George got away. George went into hiding.
Now, how that happened? Now, how y'all get him in that situation and he get away? Again, the more I watch this video, makes me have more respect for Mob James. Let's just check
right after, but started recruiting other Pyru members to fight against Suge and his crew, mainly included members from Fruitown and Looters Park. George retaliated by having one of Suge's closest soldiers, Heron, killed. He quarterbacked Heron's assassination by having his girl Woolsey, who was dressed as a man that day, and Roderick bounced out on Heron while he was blocked in traffic and light up the car 27 times with 2 AKs. Heron was dead on sight. Before he was killed, Heron knew George was coming for him. Heron was hiding in the bushes trying to get to him first, but George was 2 steps ahead. Heron's murder was a clear message from George to Suge that the war was on. George.
Man, Suge Knight done started a lot of wars for no reason.
Had switched sides against Suge and became an execution agent of Roderick Reed, also known as Lil Rod from Fruitown, Pyru. Lil Rod had evolved into a powerful PCP agent across the country. Around that time, after he linked up with George, he had a large amount of drugs stolen. The robbery included a friend of Poochie named William. So on August 4th, 2000, Poochie and William were sitting in a van on a dead-end street in Compton, when just after midnight, 2 men run up, open fire, and flee. William died an hour later, and Poochie was seriously injured. It's strongly believed that George is one of the alleged shooters. 3 weeks later, Lil Rod's friend Vince was subsequently kidnapped, tortured, murdered, and found near a Compton graveyard. There was a videotape of Vince's execution. Buntry, who was Suge's best friend, and Dudley were rumored to have played the videotape of the execution in front of a group of friends at Buntry's house. This infuriated George. Nearly a year later, Dudley was shot and killed in a hail of bullets in front of Buntry's home. George is
Now, this is crazy. You guys doing all of this robbing, murdering, and pillaging within 2 and 3 blocks of each other. And nobody got enough money to move out the hood. How is it worth it? How is any of this
alleged to be the trigger man? 8 months later, on April 3rd, 2002, Buntry pulled up to a gas station and fell up. He was about to start pumping gas when 2 men walked up and drew their pistols. Buntry was shot 4 times, and he died shortly after. The assailants fled in a pickup truck drove by a man in a ponytail. Police released sketches of the 2 suspects based on witness descriptions. It's widely believed the man behind the shooting is allegedly George Ponytail Williams himself. Fast forward to October 16th, 2002. Hendog, who was a longtime friend of Suge and also designed the Death Row logo, was shot dead near a fried chicken stand in South Central. In 2005, George and Lil Rod were convicted in manufacturing and distributing PCP.
Dog, he basically killed all the Bloods at Death Row. When I saw the title of this story, I'm like, this can't be true. Never in a million years did I think he killed everybody but Big Jake and Tupac.
and conspiracy to distribute the drugs. Drug agents who raided their operation in 2003 recovered 175 kilograms of the drugs. 50 weapons and $175,000 in cash were also confiscated during the raid. Lil Rod and George were flooding the market in South Central Compton. They utilized the Inland Empire for its remote, hard-to-detect areas, which were ideal for manufacturing PCP. In 2021, George was released from prison. Currently, he's out on parole and keeping a low profile.
That's Mike Tyson. That's a funny thing. Mike Tyson know all of these people and be all around all of these people, or have been around all these people that had intertwined issues and beef where life is lost. Make you wonder how he able to navigate that.
I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Welcome to Hood War Stories.
Yeah, shout out to Hood War Stories. Man, this shit is sad. They fucked up a whole $1 billion operation, and then for what? And me personally, I can't diss nobody gang ties or their gang situations, but it's not something that I honestly understand. Not that I don't understand how people group up and click up, but to be honest with you, it seemed like all of you guys is dog eat dog. Y'all click up together because what happens to y'all outside of y'all area, that's understandable. But what ends up happening is y'all do more damage to each other within the circle than you ever do outside the circle. It's like racism on the, it's like oh man, I don't even know what to call it. It's self-hatred. There's no other way to put that down, because none of these people, none of these victims are from anywhere else but your neighborhood and your gang. And with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get on up out of here. But now I understand where Mob James was coming from and why he was upset at Suge. Suge may not be all the way to blame for this, but he created the atmosphere for that. And then if you got homies around you, and Mob James, and I peeped how he explained it, but you got homies around you putting in work, then like they doing the same jobs. They should kind of be making the same money. Or at least they should be man enough to keep it to themselves how much money they are making. Anyways, we out. Sick with it.